Hi, my name is Jake Coles, and today I'm going to be talking about how social media affects college students' academic performance and why it is a critical issue to understand how students learn and succeed in today's environment. So let's start off with how many hours daily are you on social media? An average college student spends somewhere from 1 to 3 hours a day on social media, which is often more time than they spend studying. It's quite common to be distracted and caught in this sort of state of doom scrolling where you scroll through content not realizing how much time you have passed. This matters because academic performance depends on one's focus, time, and effort to engage in their coursework. These skills can all be affected by one's daily routine. When students spend excessive time on social media, checking platforms constantly, it can affect their focus over a long period of time. Which leads me to intelligence, which is dependent on habits like time management, being consistent with studying, and can be reflected by one's daily habits and routine. So, the main question I've been exploring is how does social media use influence students' ability to exceed academically in college? I chose this topic since I'm a college student myself and everyone around me. By looking into this question, I would like to know how social media habits shape performance, focus, and learning. So, across many studies, research consistently shows that social media affects academic performance through attention and behavior patterns. Rather than focusing on one of these research, we are going to look at the pattern that social media use influences how students concentrate and develop their study habits. From my research, in an article by Han and Yi, they found a correlation between frequent smartphone use and lower academic performance overall among college students. This is important because it is not the phone itself, but how it interrupts studying, reduces focus. Constantly switching your attention and frequent interruptions make it hard for students to gauge in complex material. So, from my research, this correlation shows us it isn't the device alone, but it's how often your attention is interrupted by something non academic during a study. Students are often distracted when their phone buzzes in their pocket from one of these platforms, and calling them to check it, causing them to lose focus on the task at hand. So, again, from my research, a study conducted by Ha and his colleagues, they found that higher social media use is connected to a lower campus involvement, which includes participation in clubs, activities, and academics. This is important because campus involvement supports academic success by keeping students motivated and engaged with their studies and environment around them. So, High study shows us that when students are less engaged in campus life, they are less connected to their academics. Being less engaged can directly affect a student's motivation to stay up to date on their coursework, and over time, it could lead to a weak academic performance because of your lack of involvement. So again, in another study conducted by Ning and Anand, they highlighted social media addiction and how it can significantly harm academic outcomes by creating bad usage patterns and habits, as one would call doom scrolling again, which is the act of spending a large amount of time across a social media platform. Over time, these patterns can cause distractions and reduce your focus overall. This means students repeatedly are checking their phones, whether their intent is to do schoolwork, which breaks their focus and concentration, which can also reduce their productivity. So, across my research, in another study by Salwan and his colleagues, they found that multitasking from social media to academic work negatively affects your learning. This is important because students believe they can do both at once, but instead switching between tasks reduces attention given to one task. For example, like your phone and an assignment on your computer. Even though most students think they can do both, switching between tasks requires intense focus, which is needed to understand difficult and complex material, while attention scattered students are less able to process information and retain it. This showed me that when I do multitask, I am wasting my time and not getting the most out of my studying. So now I'm going to talk about the time displacement effect. This effect in research shows that social media often takes place of study time, meaning that students have less distracted free time to focus on only academic work, but instead of spending that time on academics, they spend that time on social media platforms. So overall, students will have less distraction free time. So lastly, across my research, I looked into a procrastination study done by Tang and He. They found that social media use increases academic procrastination in students. What this means is when students have an assignment, they are more likely to delay or finish it because of constant distractions from various platforms. As a result, important coursework is often pushed aside, which will lead to a lower quality of work over time. This happens because many students expose themselves to distractions like notifications and the fear of missing out when connected to apps designed to give you constant attention. As a result, they will divert their focus from academic to these short-term rewarding content. So all of these factors like distractions, multitasking, and procrastination combine to cognitive effects on how students think and learn new material. While attention is diverted to both social media and academics, it becomes harder to process information because you are constantly being interrupted. Being frequently interrupted prevents deep focus, which is important to understand and learn complex material. So now, across all of my studies, you will see something in common, whether it is just being on your phone or social media addiction, multitasking, or procrastination. The results show a decrease in academic performance. Students who spend more time on social media tend to have lower academic performances. Although this could not be true for every student, my research shows a consistent connection between increased social media use and lower academic outcomes. Although my research highlights on the negative effects, it is important to understand that social media also has positive uses. Students can use social media to join groups, watch educational videos, and access information about topics quickly. It also allows for communication between groups of students to complete group work and assignments. However, these benefits rely on how social media is used. So my overall takeaway from my research is that social media definitely has negative impacts on academic performance, but it solely depends on how you use it. Across many of my studies, we see social media being linked to low levels of focus, procrastination, and lower academic scores, but that at the same time, controlled use can support one's learning and communication skills. So, my goal is not to avoid social media by any means, but rather to be aware of how it affects my attention and habits. If students like me understand this effect, we can make better decisions on when to use these platforms.